In the sacred stillness between your thoughts, there exists a sanctuary of peace waiting to be discovered. I invite you to pause for a moment and notice the rhythm of your breath, how it flows in and out without any effort from you. This simple awareness is the first step toward liberation from the suffering that anxiety creates in our minds and bodies. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not from the circumstances of our lives but from our relationship to them. When anxiety takes hold, we become entangled in a future that hasn't arrived, spinning stories of what might happen, what could go wrong, or how we might fail. The mind races forward, leaving the body behind, and in this disconnection, our suffering intensifies. I have witnessed countless beings caught in anxiety's grip, the executive whose heart races before important meetings, the parent who lies awake imagining worst-case scenarios for their children, the student whose mind goes blank during exams despite knowing the material well. Perhaps you recognize yourself in these stories, or perhaps your anxiety wears a different face. It might manifest as tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, shallow breathing, or racing thoughts that refuse to quiet even when you long for peace. These sensations are not merely psychological, they represent the body's ancient response to perceived threats, flooding your system with stress hormones that prepare you to fight or flee, even when there is nowhere to go and nothing to fight against. Modern life presents us with countless triggers for this stress response. We are constantly bombarded with information, expectations, and demands that our ancestors never faced. Our nervous systems, designed for immediate physical threats, now contend with abstract worries about the future, financial stress, relationship challenges, and global concerns. We live in bodies adapted for a simpler world while navigating increasingly complex environments. This mismatch creates fertile ground for anxiety to flourish. Yet within this very body that experiences anxiety lies the key to its transformation. As the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. This simple practice contains profound wisdom, for the breath is the bridge between voluntary and involuntary processes in our body, between conscious control and autonomic function. When anxiety arises, our breathing typically becomes shallow and rapid, restricted to the upper chest. This breathing pattern signals danger to the body, perpetuating the cycle of stress and anxiety. Yet by consciously changing how we breathe, we can send a different message to our nervous system, a message of safety, calm, and present moment awareness. The Buddha himself taught anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, as a path to liberation from suffering. In the Anapanasati Sutta, he outlined 16 contemplations based on the breath, recognizing its power to anchor us in present moment awareness and transform our relationship with difficult emotions. I remember sitting with May, a graduate student whose anxiety about her upcoming dissertation defense had become so overwhelming that she couldn't focus on her preparation. Her mind constantly projected into the future, imagining herself freezing, forgetting crucial information, or facing harsh judgment from her committee. When she came to me, her breathing was shallow, her shoulders tense, and her words tumbled out in a rush of worry. Together, we turned toward her breath, not to suppress her anxiety or force relaxation, but to create space around her experience, to observe it with compassionate awareness. The anxiety feels like a storm, she told me. My thoughts are like lightning, striking everywhere, and my heart races like thunder. I nodded, acknowledging the intensity of her experience. What happens when you watch a storm from inside a safe, warm house? I asked. You can see its power, hear its intensity, but you remain sheltered, observing without being swept away. This is what mindful breathing offers us, not an escape from our experience, but a shelter within it, a way to remain present with what is difficult without being overwhelmed by it. The techniques I will share with you are not merely stress management tools, though they certainly serve that purpose. They are invitations to know yourself more deeply, to develop a different relationship with your experience, and to discover the peace that is already present beneath the surface turbulence of anxiety. These approaches combine ancient Buddhist wisdom with modern understanding of the nervous system, offering a bridge between contemplative practice and neuroscience. They represent a path that countless beings have walked before you, finding their way from suffering to freedom, from reactivity to response, from fragmentation to wholeness. As we explore these 7 breathing techniques, I invite you to approach them with what the Buddha called beginner's mind, a mind open to possibility, free from expectations, curious about what might unfold. There is no need to force relaxation or eliminate anxiety. Instead, we practice bringing kind awareness to our experience, whatever it may be. In this approach lies the seed of transformation. As the Buddha taught, when walking, walk. When standing, stand. When sitting, sit. When lying down, lie down. This teaching points to the power of being fully present with whatever we are doing. When anxious, be fully present with the anxiety, not identified with it, but aware of it, holding it in the spacious container of mindful awareness. In these moments of presence, something remarkable happens. The anxiety that seemed solid begins to reveal its impermanent nature. The thoughts that seemed so compelling show themselves as merely thoughts, not reality. The physical sensations that felt overwhelming become simply sensations, arising and passing away. This is not a magical disappearance of difficulty, but a profound shift in our relationship to it, a shift that offers freedom even in the midst of challenging experiences. The breath serves as our constant companion in this exploration, available in every moment, requiring no special equipment or circumstances, offering a pathway home to ourselves. Let us begin with the breath that is happening right now. Can you feel the gentle movement of air at your nostrils, the rise and fall of your chest, the expansion and contraction of your abdomen? There is no need to change anything about your breathing yet, simply notice what is already happening, with curiosity and kindness. This noticing itself is a profound act, the beginning of a relationship with your breath that can transform your experience of anxiety and open doorways to deep inner peace. In the space between one breath and the next lies a moment of pure potential, where transformation becomes possible. It is here that our journey begins. The first breathing technique emerges from this simple noticing, what we might call breath awareness. When anxiety arises, our attention is typically scattered across many objects, worries about the future, ruminations about the past, physical discomfort, and emotional distress. By gently gathering our attention around the natural flow of breath, we create a center of gravity in our awareness. I invite you to place your attention on the sensation of breath wherever you feel it most clearly, perhaps at the nostrils, where you might notice coolness as you inhale and warmth as you exhale, or at the chest or abdomen, where you can observe the rhythmic movement of your body. There's no need to control the breath, simply follow its natural rhythm with kind attention, as you might follow the movements of a dance or the notes of a favorite song. When you notice your mind wandering, and it will, for that is the nature of minds, gently acknowledge the wandering and return to the breath. Each return is not a failure but a moment of awakening, a small victory of awareness. A monk once asked a Zen master how to practice meditation. The master replied, "When you are hungry, eat. When you are tired, sleep. When your mind wanders, return to your breath." The simplicity of this instruction contains profound wisdom. In each moment of returning to the breath, we strengthen our capacity for present moment awareness. The second technique, extended exhalation, works directly with the body's relaxation response. When we extend our exhale slightly longer than our inhale, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest mode, the antidote to fight or flight. Try breathing in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 6, allowing the exhale to be slow, complete, and relaxed. There is no need to force or strain, simply invite a gentle lengthening of the out-breath, as if you were sighing with relief at the end of a long day. This pattern signals safety to your nervous system, helping to calm the physiological arousal that accompanies anxiety. I recall working with James, a financial advisor whose work stress had triggered panic attacks. During our sessions, he discovered that extended exhalation brought immediate relief during moments of acute anxiety. "It feels like I'm releasing not just air but the tension itself," he shared. "Something shifts when I focus on the out-breath, like I'm letting go of what I've been holding so tightly." This letting go is both physical and psychological, a release of muscle tension and thought patterns that perpetuate anxiety. As the Buddha taught, our suffering often comes from clinging to ideas, expectations, desires, and fears. In the simple act of extending the exhale, we practice the art of non-clinging, of allowing experience to flow through us rather than becoming stuck. The third approach, belly breathing, invites us to breathe deeply into the abdomen, engaging the diaphragm fully. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly, and notice which hand moves more as you breathe. Many of us, especially when anxious, breathe shallowly into the chest. By consciously directing the breath into the belly, allowing it to expand with each inhale and recede with each exhale, we access deeper, more nourishing breath. This technique connects us with our body's innate wisdom and engages the complete respiratory system. The Buddha often spoke of the middle way, finding balance between extremes. Belly breathing represents a middle way of breathing, neither too shallow nor strained, a balanced engagement of our respiratory capacity. Ocean breath, our fourth technique, adds a slight constriction to the throat during breathing, creating a gentle sound like distant ocean waves. Known as Ujjayi breath in yoga traditions, this technique brings auditory focus to the breath while slightly extending each phase of breathing. The sound serves as an anchor for attention, while the subtle resistance in the throat helps regulate the breath's flow. This technique is particularly helpful for those whose anxiety manifests as racing thoughts, as the ocean sound provides a compelling focus that can interrupt rumination. I once practiced this technique with a group of healthcare workers during the height of a stressful period. Maria, an emergency room nurse, found that ocean breath helped her remain centered during chaotic shifts. "The sound becomes like a shield," she explained, "something I can focus on even with everything happening around me. It reminds me that beneath all the turmoil, there's a steady rhythm I can return to." This steady rhythm exists within each of us, a foundation of calm beneath the surface waves of anxiety. Ocean breath helps us access this deeper current, this underlying stillness. Our fifth technique, square breathing, creates a balanced pattern of breath with 4 equal parts: inhale, hold, exhale, hold, each for the same count, forming a square in our imagination. You might begin with a count of 4 for each segment, adjusting as needed for comfort. This technique engages the mind in counting and visualization while creating a rhythmic pattern of breath that soothes the nervous system. The brief pauses after inhale and exhale bring moments of stillness into our awareness, teaching us that we can pause amidst the flow of experience, creating space for choice rather than reactivity. The Buddha taught that between stimulus and response lies a space, and in that space lies our freedom and power to choose. Square breathing helps us experience this space tangibly, cultivating what modern psychology calls response flexibility, the ability to pause and choose our response rather than reacting automatically. This capacity is essential for transforming anxiety, as it allows us to step out of habitual patterns of worry and rumination. Alternate nostril breathing, our sixth technique, comes from yogic traditions and helps balance the hemispheres of the brain by creating a meditative focus. Using the right hand, close your right nostril with your thumb and inhale slowly through the left nostril. At the peak of your inhalation, close the left nostril with your ring finger, release the thumb, and exhale through the right nostril. Then inhale through the right nostril, close it, and exhale through the left, continuing this alternating pattern. This practice creates a gentle rhythm that occupies the thinking mind while balancing energy flow throughout the body. Buddhist psychology recognizes that balance is essential for well-being. Just as a bird needs two wings to fly, we need balance between effort and relaxation, between engagement and letting go. Alternate nostril breathing embodies this balance, creating symmetry in our nervous system and our awareness. When anxiety pulls us toward extremes, excessive worry, planning, or rumination, this technique helps restore equilibrium. The seventh technique, three-part breath, invites us to visualize the breath moving through three sections of the torso. Begin by breathing into the abdomen, allowing it to expand fully. Continue the inhalation as the breath moves into the mid-chest area, feeling the rib cage expand outward. Finally, complete the inhalation by filling the upper chest near the collarbones. On the exhalation, reverse the process, first emptying the upper chest, then the mid-chest, and finally the abdomen. This technique engages the full capacity of the lungs while creating a flowing wave-like motion through the body. Lynn, an artist struggling with performance anxiety before exhibitions, found that three-part breath helped her feel physically grounded and emotionally centered. "It's like I'm filling myself completely, becoming whole again," she said. "The anxiety tries to make me feel scattered and fragmented, but this breath reminds me of my wholeness." This experience of wholeness is not something we need to create, rather, it is our natural state that anxiety temporarily obscures. The mindful breath reveals what is already present, our inherent capacity for presence, peace, and clear seeing. Each of these 7 techniques offers a different doorway into present moment awareness, a different way of working with the breath to calm anxiety. You might discover that certain techniques resonate more deeply with you or are more effective for your particular experience of anxiety. This is to be expected, for we each have unique bodies, minds, and patterns of reactivity. I encourage you to explore them all with an attitude of kind experimentation, noticing what feels most supportive for you in different circumstances. What makes these techniques transformative is not just their effect on your physiology, though that alone is significant, but the quality of awareness you bring to them. As you practice, I invite you to notice not only the breath itself but also your relationship to the breath and to the anxiety. Can you observe both with curiosity rather than judgment? Can you approach your experience with the same kindness you would offer to a dear friend? This quality of awareness, which the Buddha called right mindfulness, transforms these techniques from mere coping strategies into pathways of profound insight and healing. Through regular practice, even just 5 minutes at a time, these mindful breathing techniques begin to rewire our nervous system and reshape our relationship with anxiety. We discover that anxiety, like all phenomena, is impermanent. It arises, changes, and passes away. Rather than being a permanent state or an identity, "I am an anxious person," it becomes one of many changing experiences that move through our awareness. This insight alone can be deeply liberating, freeing us from the belief that anxiety defines us or that we are somehow broken because we experience it. Moreover, as we continue to practice, we may notice that the space between stimulus and response gradually widens. We catch anxiety earlier in its cycle, before it has fully taken hold. We recognize the early warning signs, a slight tightness in the chest, a subtle acceleration of thought, a barely perceptible contraction around the eyes, and respond with mindful breathing before the anxiety escalates. This growing capacity for early intervention represents a significant shift from being controlled by anxiety to working skillfully with it. These breathing practices also help us develop a more nuanced relationship with our inner experience. Rather than seeing anxiety as a monolithic state, we begin to notice its components, the physical sensations, the thoughts, the emotional tone, the urges that accompany it. This detailed awareness allows us to respond more precisely to what is actually happening rather than being overwhelmed by anxiety as a whole. As the meditation teacher Joseph Goldstein notes, when we see more clearly, we can choose more wisely. One of the most profound transformations that can emerge from consistent practice is a shift in our fundamental relationship with difficulty. Instead of seeing anxiety as an enemy to defeat or a problem to solve, we learn to relate to it as a messenger carrying important information about our needs, boundaries, and values. We move from resistance to receptivity, from aversion to compassion. This shift doesn't mean we seek out anxiety or enjoy its presence, but rather that we stop adding the suffering of resistance to the already challenging experience of anxiety itself. I remember working with Thomas, a college professor whose anxiety about public speaking had limited his career for years. Through consistent practice with these breathing techniques, he not only managed his anxiety more effectively but also developed a new understanding of its purpose in his life. I used to see my anxiety as a weakness, something wrong with me, he shared. Now I recognize it as part of my system trying to protect me, albeit in an outdated way. When I feel that familiar tightness before a lecture, I can acknowledge it with something like gratitude. Thank you for trying to keep me safe, even as I choose not to be ruled by it. This transformation in perspective reflects the Buddha's teaching on the two arrows of suffering. The first arrow is the inevitable pain of life, in this case, the immediate experience of anxiety with its physical sensations and mental activity. The second arrow is our reaction to that experience, our resistance, judgment, shame, or narrative about what the anxiety means about us. While we may not always be able to prevent the first arrow, through mindful awareness we can avoid shooting ourselves with the second. We can experience anxiety without adding layers of reactivity that intensify and prolong our suffering. As you continue to explore these breathing techniques, I invite you to bring patience and self-compassion to your practice. There will be days when the techniques seem to work beautifully, creating an immediate sense of calm and spaciousness. There will be other days when anxiety feels too strong, when your mind seems too scattered to focus on the breath. Both experiences are part of the path. The Buddha taught that our practice should be like a well-tuned string instrument, neither too tight nor too loose. We practice with dedication but without harsh expectations, with consistency but without rigidity. Over time, you may notice subtle shifts in your relationship with anxiety. Perhaps you'll find yourself recovering more quickly from anxious episodes, or noticing moments of genuine ease even amidst challenging circumstances. You might discover that the anxiety that once seemed to define your experience has become just one of many passing states, no longer holding the power it once did. These changes often happen gradually, like the slow changing of seasons rather than a sudden transformation. Be patient with this process, celebrating small victories along the way. Remember that these breathing techniques are not just practices for anxious moments but invitations to a different way of being in the world. The quality of awareness we cultivate through mindful breathing, present, kind, curious, non-judgmental, can extend to all aspects of our experience. We can bring this same awareness to joy, sorrow, success, failure, connection, and solitude. In this way, what begins as a technique for managing anxiety becomes a pathway to a more awake, compassionate, and peaceful life. The Buddha often compared the mind to water. When agitated, like a pond stirred by wind, it distorts everything it reflects. When calm, it reflects reality clearly, without distortion. Our mindful breathing practices are ways of calming the water of our minds, allowing clarity to emerge naturally. This clarity isn't something we create, it's what remains when the agitation of anxiety subsides. It is our natural state, our birthright, available in any moment we choose to return to the simple miracle of breath. As we conclude our exploration of these 7 mindful breathing techniques, I invite you to consider how you might integrate them into your daily life. Perhaps you'll begin your day with 5 minutes of breath awareness, creating a centered foundation for whatever unfolds. Maybe you'll practice extended exhalation during your commute or before important meetings. You might turn to alternate nostril breathing when you need to restore balance in the midst of a challenging day, Or use ocean breath to help you transition from work to home, from doing to being. The beauty of these practices lies in their simplicity and accessibility. Your breath is always with you, requiring no special equipment, no particular location, no expense. In any moment, whatever is happening, you can turn toward your breath and find a moment of presence, a pause in the stream of doing, an opportunity to remember your fundamental wholeness beyond anxiety's temporary weather patterns. As Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts. I invite you now to take a moment for practice. Perhaps close your eyes, or lower your gaze, and bring your attention to the natural flow of your breath. You might choose any of the 7 techniques we've explored, or simply rest in awareness of the breath as it is. Allow yourself these moments of being rather than doing, of presence rather than performance. In this simple act of attending to breath, you touch something timeless, the same breath that has sustained all beings throughout history, the same awareness that is your true nature beyond all states of mind, beyond anxiety and its absence. In this breath, right now, you are complete, whole, exactly as you should be. And in this realization lies the deepest healing of all.